Okay, so we'll continue our discussion with the last part of chapter 1. So we'll be talking about the anatomy of a Java program. Okay, so every Java program has these basic parts, okay, or fundamental parts in order for it to execute properly. So here are the different parts, we could say parts of our Java program. So we have a class name, the main method, statements, statement terminator, reserved words, comments, and blocks. Now, first is the class name. Now, every Java program must have at least one class. Now, each class has a name. By convention, class names start with an uppercase letter. So, we'll see an example here, which is the name of the class is welcome. By the way, I'll be showing later how to compile and execute Java program. I'll be showing you one tool na lang. It will be an online tool, so you'll be going to visit this site, then put some codes there, then you could easily execute the program without installing and configuring Java. Okay, so for example, in this entire text here enclosed in the box is a working Java program. Okay, so you'll notice here there is a word welcome. So that is the name of the class. It's very important for you to have this name so that the program would know where to start. Okay, so line 2 defines the main method. So in order to run a class, the class must contain a method named main. So in order for a program to do something, there should be a method what we call in which we call main, the main method. Okay, so the program is executed from the main method. So you get to see here this entire statement refers to our main method. Okay, so public static void main. So for now, don't worry yourself of the words. It's important to know that these are important words that you need to have in your program. Okay, and also it's very important for you to follow the casing, okay, or how big or small a letter is, since Java is case sensitive. But pasabot ana, lahi ang gamay. Let's say if you write here small letter W, it would be treated differently when you're going to use the big letter W. Okay, then statements, so these are the actual actions that are being executed in our program. So a statement represents an action or a sequence of actions. So in this case, the statement system.out.println, okay, welcome to Java, would be the would display the word welcome to Java when you're going to execute this program. So we will try and execute this later in our online compiler. Now, statement terminator, it's very similar to how we end our sentences. Okay, so every statement in Java ends with a semicolon. This is in order for the compiler to know which to separate between instructions. Okay, so it's in a program, it's very common to have multiple instruction given at a specific order. Okay, so it needs to have what we call a semicolon. If you miss this, there will be errors. Okay, there will be errors that would occur. So you get to see here the semicolon indicates the end of this statement here. Okay, so reserved words, these are words that have a specific meaning to the compiler and cannot be used for other purposes in the program. Ano yung game kanina? That you need to have the set of words written so that you could make the program work. For example, when the compiler sees the word class, it expects or it understands that the word after class is the name for the class. Kaya murag na siya timailhan ba? It's very important that naani nga mga words, and not only that, it should be case sensitive. Okay, so before we move on to blocks, so let's try this. Let's write this program. Okay, so we'll be writing this. So I'll move this aside for now. So this is your or our compiler, online compiler. So just open a browser. Okay, so I'll start from the desktop here. So you can open any browser. I suggest you use Chrome since I'm using Chrome here. Then just you can search, okay, online Java compiler. So once you have that open, just look for the link which have the j.doodle.com website. Okay, so just click on that, then you'll arrive with this compiler, our tool here. Okay, so in order for you to see this clearly, I'll just be zooming this. Okay, so para makita ninyo. So you're going to write your code here. Then, once you going to press execute, kaya, to make it easier in your eyes, okay, para dili kay cluttered inyong pananaw, you could click this button here para mataguan ang uban ng mga information that we are not going to use for now. Okay, so we have here our code. Then, we have here our result. Okay, so let's try. We're going to write this sample program that we have. Okay, so this program prints welcome to Java. Then we have public class welcome. Then public static void main string args. Then we have here, we'll be discussing some of the things that we haven't discussed yet later. So I'll just show you an actual program in action. So system.out.println, then welcome to Java. Okay, so that is our sample program that you're working on. So once you have this written, you can click on execute. Okay, as you can see here, we have the words welcome to Java displayed as a result. Okay, so we have here, so far we have discussed the class. Okay, we also have discussed the main method here. We also discussed reserved words. So these words here. Then we have discussed a statement. Then statement terminator. So next is our block. So blocks are enclosed in braces in a program. Okay, blocking is very important. It's very similar to how we have paragraphs in our, let's say, document. So when we write something, it comprises of sentences. Okay, then as a group, as a same overall thought, we group that as a paragraph. Now in this case, it's very similar in a program. So we have in every block, okay, there are logical reasons why we block that. Okay, so we have here our block. Now at first you might be confused or you might lose track on blocks, okay, on how they are being organized. But blocks essentially are a pair of brackets, okay, or curly braces indicated by this symbol here. Okay, so let's make it larger. Okay, so we have a class block. Now inside a class block, naana siya expected nga sulod in which it belongs to that class block. Now our main method also have our block here, okay, which is the method block. So within this pair of curly braces, okay, diha nabutang ang mga statements. Okay, so for now we are more concerned with the blocks within our main method, but don't forget to have this written out. Okay, so so that you would tip so that you would not lose track in your block when you're going to write. Siguro na notice niyo kanina when I was writing, where's my Okay, so when I was writing, I will rewrite this portion here. Okay, I'll rewrite this entire statement here. Okay, so we have public class void main. Okay, every time that there's a pair that is being written, okay, you need to close it. Okay, the online Java compiler is kind enough to close it for you, but if you are working on a text editor, okay, nga di wala kay nga ng feature, then you need to write it nga ana daan para di mo mawala. Okay, ay haday ninyo ibutang ang sulod. Okay, so public static void main string args. Okay, then the main method block kana. Okay, as you can see here, ako ang gisulat daan, then you move your cursor in between the curly braces, enter dayon mo. Okay, so ang nakatsada ni online Java compiler na indent na niya daan. Indentation is very important in order for you to quickly know which block is which part of your program is which. Okay, so para dili mawala kay kung ing-ani ni pagkasulatanan. Okay, so let's say ing-ani. Okay, it will happen nga daghan na kaay let's say curly braces, daghan na kaayog mga blocking na hitabo, possibly ma-lose track mo ana. And doing this easily lets you know unsa nga part ni nga code. Okay, ang na brace, let's say in this case our curly braces, this is here. You'll notice na murag line diha. Okay, that indicates that this is part of this block being pointed here. Okay, may nakatsada na. So again, let's complete this system.out.println. Welcome to Java. Okay, if we'll run this again, there's an error. Public class void, public static. Okay, not public class, public static. So you get to see there. Okay, I have written, okay, erroneously, or I have typed erroneously a keyword. Okay, nga wala dapat dito. Instead, you need to write static. Let's try. Okay, so error. Wala na siya error, I mean. Okay, so going back. So special symbols you need to remember. Okay, very similar to our keywords in which there are specific uses for this. So our pair of curly braces, opening and closing braces, denotes a block to enclose statements. Our parenthesis here is used with methods. So you get to see kanina na ay parenthesis. Here it is used to denote an array. So we'll not be talking more about array now, but it is actually used when we write our main method earlier. This is used to create a comment, okay, or precede a comment line, double slashes. I will talk about comments later. Then we have a pair of quotes, okay, it encloses a string or a sequence of characters. String is commonly seen in programming. This is a type of data actually, okay, a non-numeric data. Then semicolon again marks the end of a statement. So again, curly braces, this is used to enclose or to specify blocks. Here it is used in methods, okay. Semicolon used as a terminator. Then the double slash is used as a comment. By the way, comments, if you'll notice, most of the things that we have written in our program, okay, you'll notice here sa to ang code, okay, daghan kita gisulat, okay, but ang gawas lang is kani. Okay, so naiga kay tabo behind the scene. Okay, if we want to print something out, one of the statements or one of the methods that you could use is kani. Okay, but when we talk about the overall functionality of our code, comments are actually rendered, it's actually uncompiled. Okay, it's not part of the compilation. Now you might be asking, sir, ngano nagsulat man ta og statements or words diha nga dili man day gina-compile sa program. Okay, this is used for documentation or timailhan, or let's say mura guide kibali. Okay, mura siya o We call this comment kay murag gaingon ta kung unsay buot pasabot ana, even though it's not part of the actual program, but it helps you know what that part of our code do. Okay? So that is comment. It is part also as documentation. Mura siya og manual kibali. Okay? Kay if atuan ning tanggalot, okay? Kana. If we're going to execute this, okay, this will cause an error like that. Okay? So, if you want to use this as a comment, okay, or as a part of a documentation, so we're going to add that. Okay? Kana strings, okay, programming style and documentation. Okay? So, kani, we'll talk more about comments here. Appropriate comments, it includes a summary at the beginning of the program to explain what that program does. Its key features, its supporting data structure, and any unique techniques it uses. The more complicated a program is, the more ideal for us to have an appropriate comment. So, usually, if you are going to submit this as an assignment or as a task for your instructor to check, so you could include your name, class section, date, and so on. So, depende, okay? Depende if ako anang i-require. But, again, comments are not really compiled or it's not included in the compilation process. Okay? Disregard na sa compiler. In short, dili na siya part sa program for it to work properly. It's just a guide for the reader as a person to know what that program does. So, naming convention. So, actually, as apart from the reserved words that we are using, there are actually some form of freedom that we could choose specific names. But in order for it to be beneficial, okay, for you as a programmer to maintain that code or later on inyuhan nang ipasa sa uban or magpatabang mo sa uban, it needs to have a meaningful and descriptive name. Okay, so for class name, by the way, convention, buot pasabot aning convention is these are the rules that have been established by the community, okay, as programmers, okay, as Java programmers in this case, nga ilahang gisabutan nga dapat tumanon. Even though dili gid ni siya ingon nga required nga makapagana sa program, but it's just a, we could say, an unwritten rule. Most of these are unwritten rule. Okay, so that naay murag standardization sa coding, di ba? Kung mangayo tagtabang sa uban, it's much easier to have a standard nga tuman na to duha para magkasinabot ta kung sa imong gusto ipatabang kay ang format ba kaha or ang pag naming ingana. So sa class names, one of the convention is we capitalize the first letter of each word in the name. So for example, the class name compute expression, okay? You'll notice siguro kabalon man mo ni, this is actually two separate words, but it's very important that you know when to use space, you know when to separate your words. If that is what we call a class name, okay, if you want that to be descriptive enough nga mahimo siya og multiple words, do not separate the words kay mag-cause ra nag problem sa tuang compiler. So we'll see later. So compute expression, so let's say we're going to write here. Okay? So, kani, usara man ka word. Okay? Ang convention lang is, or ang rule lang is, the first letter would be capitalized. But, if we have the word, compute, so if you doing this, okay, this will cause an error. Okay? Kaya na may space. Okay? So, if I'm going to execute this, okay, so you get to see na error. If you're going to remove that, but retaining the same descriptive nature, okay, and following the syntax that Java requires, if you're going to execute that, okay, gana siya. So essentially, we didn't change how the program behaves, we just changed the name of its class. So next convention, proper indentation and spacing. So, katong giingon kanina. So, indentation, you indent two spaces. Then, spacing, use blank line to separate segments of the code. Okay? Parehas ani. No. Okay, it's already indicated here, but this is a separate topic. So you get to see na ay murag indentation. Okay? Kana. If you are dealing with multiple statements, okay, it is expected that i-move siya sa next nga line. Okay? Kana. Block styles. Now, block styles, there are two types of blocking styles in Java, but I suggest you use the end of line style. Kay it's in the long run, it will not cause your program to be very long. Kay as you get to see here, there is a dedicated line for that curly brace instead of having that aligned with this here. Okay, and also kaning tong resource, it uses the end of line style. Okay? Kana. So, common programming errors. Okay? Kanina natin mga errors nga mga na-encounter. Okay? So, it could belong to any of these three. So, we have first the syntax errors, next the runtime errors, then the logic errors. Kaning syntax errors, maoning mga errors nga ma-detect sa compiler. Okay? Syntax errors, these are syntax. What do you mean by syntax? A syntax is a specific way for you to write when you are going to write for that language. Okay? Okay? If it causes a syntax error, it will not yield a result. Okay? So, pares lang kanina nga nahitabo. Okay? So, a syntax error could be like this. Okay, pares ana. This will cause a syntax error kay ang expected sa Java nga after sa class nga word, the next word would be our class name. But napa man space. Ang expected man ta niya nga ang sunod sa space, it should be this. But ang iya man nakita is kani, in which it is not part of the correct syntax. That is why if going to execute this, na siya ing ani. Okay, it expect this character here. Okay, so this is a syntax error. It will not result to, or it will not give you a display. Okay, instead, it will tell you that there's an error. Maunang timailhan sa syntax error. Runtime errors, okay, it will successfully compile, okay, and execute, okay, during part of program execution if naay sayop nga nahitabo, okay, nga unexpected nga parts of nga information nga imong na-provide kibali, it will cause an error. Since it happened during runtime, it is called runtime error. Okay? So, kana. Well, let's, if naaba siya yung mga, there's an example here we'll get to see later. Then finally, logic error. This actually produces a result, okay, but it produces incorrect result. This is actually one of the most difficult errors to detect. Kay when you are programming, especially if you're still new, mura makontento ra mo nga naay result nga mahitabo, not knowing nga logic error di ay. Let's say you want to add 3 plus 1. Then ang ni result ni compile siya na himog 31. Okay? So posible nga di ninyo na mabantayan or you will accept that as it is, but logically speaking, it is erroneous. So let's check some errors here. Okay. So public class shows syntax errors. So we're going to copy this para makita ginato sa error. By the way, going back to the topic of comments, if I'm going to erase this, just to show you that this is not really part of the compilation, if I'm going to erase this, okay, it would still, I'm going to correct this first, it would still compile or execute normally. Okay, so we're going to copy our previous example showing syntax error. So public class shows syntax errors. So public static main string args, then system.out.print ln is actually short for print line. Welcome to Java. Okay, we're going to execute this. Okay, as you get to see, may error. Okay, what do you think is the error? Okay, do you know? It's actually here. Actually, ako aning nahimo kanina, but there's a missing reserved word here. Okay. No. Here di ay. Tsaka, that would be our word nga void. So, we're going to execute this. Okay. Ningga na siya. Okay. So, natay na kulang. Okay. It is an essential part of the syntax or how the program should be written. So, if mawala na siya, or if you have used that incorrectly, it will cause a syntax error. Okay? So, runtime error. Sa itsura sa runtime error. So, public class show runtime error, public static void main, okay? System.out, kana. Okay? Now, in math, division by 0 is not allowed. Okay? It's invalid. It's an invalid computation. Okay? So, what will happen here is if we're going to emulate this code, so public class show runtime errors, public static void main string args system.out.print ln. Kana. You'll notice wala tay sa tawag ani. Wala tay quotation. Since when you're using quotations, you are going to display whatever that is being written in between quotation. But that's not always the case. Sometimes we want to display a result of a computation. So this is a computation. So we're going to make this run. Okay. So this is actually, or this didn't resulted to a syntax error. Kay syntactically speaking, wala man tayo gi-violate the nga way of writing. Okay, sakto ato mga reserved words, sakto ato casing. Okay, so kanilang yun, this is an operation, a running operation na iyaning gi-execute, but okay, naadayin siya error nga nahitabo. Okay, kana. That is a runtime error. So later on, when we move along our discussion, we'll get to see more of this error. We'll get to encounter more of this error. Okay? Kana. So logic error. Kani. So a logic error, again, this would yield an incorrect result. So ato na lang ni kopyahan diretso. Then we scrutinize or we inspect if what is wrong with this code. So public class show logic errors, public static void main string args system.out.print ln. So in this part, we're going to display the text Celsius 35 is Fahrenheit degree. What will happen is, unsay mahitabo dili mo sumpay sa ani nga statement. So we'll see later. System.out.print ln so 9/5. Asterisk is used as multiplication. Okay, so we'll know more about arithmetic operator later. 35 plus 32. Ano? 32. Okay? So what do you think would be the result? Or there will be a result definitely. Okay? As you get to see here, natay makita dere nga kaning word followed by this result here. But this is not actually the correct computation for our Celsius to Fahrenheit. Okay? If we'll get to search, okay, as you can see here, the correct value should be 95. But why did we come up with 67? What happened here is we provided an incorrect formula. So even though we have written correctly the syntax of our Java program, even though we have performed a valid operation, but the logic behind that operation is different, okay, or is wrong. Okay, so mahitabo ani is sayop ang inyong solution. Okay, when you are solving, actually if you are going to solve a math problem, it's very much possible that you arrive an answer. But if you have used the wrong formula for that, then you will arrive with an incorrect answer. Na ay answer but sayop. Mao ning nahitabo dere. Okay? So, in order for you to correct that, you need to provide the correct formula. So, this should arrive with a value of 95. Okay? So, in this case, this is now a correct program that is free of syntax error, free of runtime error, and free of logic error. So, mo ng ideal nga output sa to ang program when we are going to create one. Okay? Kana. Okay, so that actually ends our first chapter. Okay, so very basic. Okay, we have a Java, we have a sample Java program. We know its parts, and we also discuss the different errors alongside creating a program that we could encounter. Okay, so with that, we end our discussion with chapter 1. Now, again, I highly suggest to try it out yourself. Okay? Dili lang kay tan-awon lang. You could actually do this in a cell phone if you're going to visit this. Okay? My tabo is it might be in a different view siguro ing ani, but nevertheless, once you write code here, as long as it's correct, it would be, once you click execute, magpakita na diha. Okay? So again, if you have questions or concerns, feel free to ask in our classroom. Okay? So kana lang, then see you next lecture, video lecture.